Hello everyone, welcome to 21 Questions, a VR to Lisa Pappas, where I will be answering 21 of the questions that were originally set out during a live that was done on her channel. Very interesting. So yeah, let's get underway with it because we have quite a few to answer and I have quite a few decks out here. So even I'm kind of like, this is going to be a marathon. Welcome to new subscribers. Welcome back to those who already know me. You are joining me at the end of a pretty sunny, nice day in Brussels. It's warm, and please forgive any ambient sounds because I do have some windows open. It's too hot to keep them closed. But let's get underway with the questions or the prompts. Okay, what is the deck they'll have to pry out of your cold, dead hands? So this was already tough. This was already like, don't make me say this. Don't make me do this. Don't make me choose. I am a Fae girl. Like, we are a Fae family kind of thing. You know, don't make me choose between them. So I kind of like, it's a cheat. It's a cheat already. I have several, but I can kind of like fit them onto like my hands in one go, which kind of like makes the whole thing okay. So this is the cheat bundle. We have the Paulina Tarot, my first ever tarot deck beside the RWS Tarot. We have the Forager's Daughter. I have a whole video to do on that one. We have the Hush Tarot, my beloved Hush Tarot by Jeremy Hush. We have here the Foraxer. I cannot live without this deck. And we have Tarot of the Hidden Realm, which I just did. Also another VR on that one, one deck gone wild. So, pick your poison. But I guess the Foraxer still is in my hands. So maybe this is the one that, now I'm answering the question, this is the one that it's gonna take a lot to get this out of my hands. This is an independent copy. Of course, a mass market edition is coming out by Hay House in the next month or so, the next 2 months, by MJ Cullinan. This is my quintessential Fae deck because of the fact that the whole community of Fae is there. It is absolutely lush, gorgeous. It is, we see a diversity of Faes. We see, it's, you know what it is, people, let's just get honest about it. It's the colors and it is the scenes. It is the setting. It is the empowerment. It is the storytelling of this deck. This deck kind of like ticks every single box. I never look at a card thinking I don't understand it. I never look at a card thinking these emotions don't mean anything or I don't know what this is about. This deck just captures my being. It also tells me when it's time to move on. It's time to consult others. It tells me when I need to own my power. It tells me when I can create. It tells me when I need to, you know, unpin those wings, put them back on and fly again. It tells me to enjoy the abundance that's around me. So basically I'll stop there, but yeah, it would take a lot to get me to part with this deck, and so grateful. I saw this deck in its creation phase and I knew there and then that this was a deck that I would be purchasing straight from the creator, and I absolutely love this. This is the Foraxer by MJ Cullinan. Okay, so the next question, let's jump ahead, and we are already at what's your guilty pleasure deck? There's quite a few. I pay a lot of money to have decks coming onto this continent. I am, of course, EU bound. I am in Belgium. So I think, though, one of the guilty pleasures, which I knew I was going to get it, I had to get it, of course, is the Tildwick. It is, of course, very pricey for me. I think with all the customs and the shipping and everything, when we include all that in, I'm looking around 120 euros, or approximately 120, 25, 130 US dollars just to get this into my hands. Of course, this is one done by a creator who has now sadly passed on. This copy has been re-released. I have the 10th anniversary edition. I knew when I saw this deck speaks to my, how I connect, how I see the world, how I see where I live. I am based on continental Europe. There is a reason for that. I, of course, also I'm born and raised in the UK partially. So, you know, this speaks to a core inner being of this lifetime. Let me put it this way, of this lifetime, the body and the life I was born into and the reasons for that. This deck to me really is kind of like somebody knew what I saw and they were putting it together decades ago into a tarot deck, and it is just stunning. It also goes with a huge part of my collection. So I'm very, very happy to it. But yeah, it is a guilty pleasure. It costs a lot of money to get into my hands. But and look at that gilding. Look at those backs. Okay, let's move on from there. And yeah, and sorry, another guilty pleasure before I move on there, I forgot, I don't have it in my hands because it hasn't been produced yet. It is under production. I have backed it. Of course, it is none other than the Joker Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. I have backed the Kickstarter edition, which will have its colored accents, which will not be in the mass market edition, but I knew I was going to back that deck. I even put it into my phone when the Kickstarter was launched. I even went for, at the time, like a simple box copy, and then I upped my pledge. I mean, I just knew the Joker Tarot is, of course it's luxury. I mean, it's 114 just for the pledge. Add on another 20 probably, or 25 for the shipping. It's coming from within the EU. It's Italy to Belgium, so I won't be paying taxes in that sense. But you know, it's going to turn into like a €140 deck. So we're not looking at small change here, which is about $150 US. So yeah, that is a guilty pleasure too, but I had to have it. Okay, what's the deck you wish you existed? And that was a really clever question. The deck that I wish existed is, of course, would be a sister to the Joker Tarot, and that is the Scarecrow Tarot, based on Christopher Nolan's book, with, of course, Cillian Murphy playing the role of Scarecrow. I think it is an unexplored character that needs exploration. If you are out there, Corrado Roy, watching this video, which I very much doubt it, or Lo Scarabeo watching this video, which I very much doubt it, but I want to do a plea. Please, the Scarecrow, he needs his own deck. There you go. And while you're at it, actually, let's put the Harlequin in there as well. So yeah, you know where I'm going on this. Decks, what deck would you give to a new reader? Excellent question. The deck that I would give to a new reader, which I don't have, silly me, but there you go, I do need to invest in it. It is the Llewellyn Classic, not the Llewellyn Tarot, the Llewellyn Classic, which is a very simple deck with a great guidebook. I believe the guidebook is by Barbara Moore, but I could be completely wrong there. But there's that deck, and actually I would give a beginner 3 decks, the Llewellyn Classic, then the box deck of, they come in like, I think now a package, but the box deck of the Before Tarot and the box deck of the After Tarot by Llewellyn as well. These are great learner decks. Do not underestimate learning the RWS in its different ways of visualization. That's the best way I'm going to put it. And even though I'm not a quintessential RWS fan, I think it looks like Gulliver's Travels, the Pamela Colin Smith version. I just do. I think it looks like Gulliver's Travels. Let's be honest there. But I do think that her symbology, her creation of the keys, especially of the minors, which I absolutely love. And of course, I do really enjoy the quartz as well. The quartz are very special to me. So I think that it was done very, very well. And even though I'm not a huge fan of the illustrations, I don't knock the deck, and I believe a beginner does need to understand that deck. They don't have to use it, but they do have to understand it and the origins of the keys. Okay, what deck do you want to get along with, but it just never clicked? I'm going to be shot here, I think, by the whole tarot community, but I'm going to say the Marielle. I'm sorry. I think that deck is for certain audiences, not because one doesn't understand it, but I almost felt like somebody had walked into my first year of my philosophy degree and garbled together things and then stuck them into a deck and thought, this looks really impressive. It don't impress me much. So sorry to put it that way. I know I'm going to get shot. People are going to go, I love it. It is very interesting and very well done. I actually think the deck, I'm going to backtrack on this quite a bit. I think the deck has been well done in some ways, but I think it is so overhyped and it's so much put into a way where it's kind of like, this is kind of like our connection to some kind of a god or something. And I'm looking at it thinking, no, this is like a foundation to philosophy degree that's been butchered together basically. And some of it just doesn't, you know, if you studied your theology, this is this does not hit the mark for me. I know I'm going to get shot for it, but there you go. What date do you only keep for the R? It's going to be an unpopular choice, but I'm going to say it. The deck that I keep for the art is the Shimmering Veil Tarot. It is beautiful. It's very well done. By Scylla Conway. This is an independent deck. But really, it's like one of those art decks that like, it looks pretty. It looks pretty, you know. It's that kind of a deck where I look at it, and of course we can read with this deck. I mean, it's an amazing deck. But the issue is that it's so beautiful. I spend more time looking at the art than I do like actually interpreting the keys, going, okay, what am I seeing here? Saying that, this deck would be excellent as a focal card in a reading. This deck would be excellent to begin that spread. And yeah, I do think it is an absolutely stunning deck, and of course, stunning workmanship in creating it and quality as well. This is a very well produced, and I know many of you have it. Okay, let's go on from there. What deck did you buy because everyone else did? Oh, I've got many decks like that. I mean, I've got many decks like that, but the deck that kind of like falls into that sphere, which I bought, it was definitely out of a FOMO. It was definitely a FOMO purchase. Here it is. It is the Majestic Earth Tarot. Gorgeous deck. It says Storm and Wonder. Gorgeous deck. Very, very well produced. The gilding is beautiful on this deck. The touches on this deck are again gorgeous. You know, I'm again thinking of like, you know, these are independent decks that have just been really well thought through. Look at the backs on that deck. Stunning. And the art is gorgeous. So this could go into the other category as well. What did you buy because it's art? This can fall into this one. And they both are similar in the sense that I bought it because everybody else did, so I bought it too. I feel like this is the Tildwick outside, and I love it. I love it for that. I'm still closer to the Tildwick, I think, but this has that haunting atmosphere in the landscape that I think it captivates and takes me with it. But it's definitely a purchase that I made because everybody else, like, you know, and this is one of those nixed copies, you know, the copies that were being sold slightly discounted because there was something wrong with them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the cards. I think that they're perfect. I don't know what the issue is in the production of this, but this was sold as one of those discounted copies. I bought it. I'm very, very happy with it. And I need to spend some time with it, actually. I think I need to give it its due worth and its justice. I'm very glad it's in my collection, that's for sure. It's not going anywhere. And yeah, definitely happy to have this purchase. If you manage to get your hands on a copy of this deck and you're considering whether or not, you know, do I make that purchase, do I make that investment, and you're getting it secondhand, I would say yes. Okay, let's go on from there. What deck is over your head or just baffles you? So far, I was going to say so far none, because that is true. I never really feel that perplexed by a deck. I believe this is one thing I am going to say though. I believe that decks need research if one is feeling perplexed. For me, tarot books, even like the Kabbalah ones, or they're great. Or you know, Tarot Illuminati by Kim Huggins, the completed book, not the one that goes with the deck, which is very good, but the expanded version, the compendium kind of thing. Very, very good book, definitely worth having on your shelf. But there comes a point, I believe, for somebody to go from beginner to mid-level and really getting into the mid towards the advanced level, which is, you kind of like, sorry to put it this way, but you kind of like have to come out of tarot. One has to learn history. One has to learn what is happening at the time. One has to learn what was the atmosphere when the RWS was created, which, you know, and that is something that I come from personally as a viewpoint of a historian, originally a historian, then I went and studied law. But the point for me is context and the circumstances and the situation and what builds that construct at that time is a key ingredient to understanding the keys. So for me, one can buy book after book after book. If you're a beginner, buy the beginner books, start there, go for whatever feels comfortable for you. But if you want to get really into it, one has to come out of tarot in order to understand tarot. That's me. What deck surprised you? Oh, I have to say, I had the answer for this one without even having to think too much. It's Tarot of the Holy Spectrum. This is the original version that was produced, that's now been re-released. So I think this is like the 3rd edition of that standard copy. This is not Infinity. I have Infinity too. This deck just really surprised me because it's so not my kind of usual art. You can see I have a lot of Fae decks and a lot of Earth decks and architectural decks and blah, blah, blah. This deck doesn't fall into those realms. It's a different kind of art. It's a contemporary art. It is, for me personally, when I see this, very US bound or North America bound, I would say. So when I see this, I see the landscape of a certain North American feel, which I think is beautiful, stunning. But you know, I'm across the continent, I'm across the pond, I've crossed the Atlantic, and I'm somewhere in the Midwest. Sometimes I'm thinking, is that where I'm at with this deck? And it surprised me in how much it is a beautiful deck to connect with, and just a joy to look at, a pleasure to look at, and I think it's very underrated, although I think that there's definitely a few people who love it and talk about it, but I think that it's not still spoken about enough. I think this will go down in history as a deck that really gets us to see tarot in a different way. I think it will, for sure. So this deck surprised me. I bought it on you know, the hype, like, oh, it's being redone. And I do know that I think the 1st edition that had this like gray film across it. Oh, something about it, the color tones were a little bit different, and then they've redone it, and it just popped, and I wanted to give it a try. And this deck speaks to me on so many levels, so beautifully. The art is something that is beyond my own personal experiences, let's put it this way, and it's good. It challenges me, definitely. So there you go. That's the Tarot of the Holy Spectrum, and it surprised me in how much it kind of like showed me a new way of looking at tarot, understanding tarot, and you know, just even the spaces in the card are just beautiful. The spaces are there for a reason. So yeah, if you're on the fence about this deck, I mean, the decks that I'm showing here, some of them, maybe not all, but some of them, I mean, I guess, you know, there's just no regrets about that purchase. There's no regrets about the investment made. Yeah. Okay, what deck doesn't really work for you, but you keep it because it's a collectible? I'm afraid this has happened. Let's get serious. This is one of the ones that, like, yeah, it's a collectible, but it's not working for me, and I've tried. It's the Alchemical Tarot of Marseille by Robert M. Plas, and I love the deck. I love the workmanship gone into the production, very high quality. Look at that bling as it comes out. Look at that box. And I mean, it's like little wooden blocks, you know, that's what you feel when you have this deck in your hand. These are the backs. And it's kind of like Marseille RWS kind of thing. You have like depictions. So here's a 6 of Swords and you have the boat there. So it's kind of like that, you know, those pips that really just give their meaning. There's a couple of things that irk me in this deck. One is the typo around épée, around the blades. Sorry, but there is a spelling mistake. And then it's a cross. And yeah, that's the thing that really irks me in this deck. But it is a beautiful deck. I love this script at the bottom, for example. Let's take one here. So this is La Diabla, the devil. He who has attached himself to demons becomes like the demons. I mean, Robert M. Plas has, and you've got the South Node there. Robert M. Plas has done an amazing job in, sorry, not the South Node, it's the North Node. He's done an amazing job in this deck. And, you know, he's, you know, that's going to the ego, actually. I was just looking at that going, that's very much, he's connecting it to the ego. He's done an amazing job with this deck. And, I mean, the colors pop. Now that I'm showing it to you, I'm like, it does work. But I think I need to spend time with this deck, and I haven't given it its due it's due love. Basically, that's a part of it. And I think that, you know, it's one of those decks where it just hasn't gone into use, but it definitely deserves to be used. And I'm not getting rid of this. No way. I mean, this has got to be one of my favorite Marseilles, even though it's quite RWS as well. But there you go. Okay, going on from here, let's say, what deck is your favorite gilded deck? Technically, my favorite gilded deck is a Oracle deck, but I've decided to keep this just to tarot for today because I wanted to. It is the She-Wolf Tarot. I think I've seen this deck in this particular video quite often, so let's just go for it. It's the She-Wolf, and I will be short on this. Just look at that pink bling. It looks like a huge giant pink slab, and I love it. I just look at that bling. Yeah, so these are the backs. I think that the other version had nicer backs, to be quite honest with you, and these are the fronts, and it is a fantastic deck. There is some nudity, so I've got to be careful here. But you can see that this deck just speaks very, very well to the reader. I mean, yeah, it's gorgeous. I've got to be careful with nudity here and YouTube. No, that one I've got to go forward. Okay, I can't really show much of this deck because there's just so much nudity here that YouTube will... let's try and show this card. I'll have to cover her a little bit so I can cover her breasts, but there you go. So that bling though, look at that bling. Gorgeous. Technically my favorite is an Oracle deck, but I'm not going to show it here on this particular video. I need to do this one again with oracles. There you go. Okay, the next question is what which deck do you love but hate the cardstock? Yeah, this one was a bit of a, yeah, there's several that could have fallen into this one, but I'm going to show it because it's got to be talked about. Let's get honest in this YouTube channel. I'm sorry about the sun. I still need to do lighting that I can control. But let's talk about it. The Star Tarot. The cardstock is cardboardy, but what makes it worse, and I want to talk about this cardstock is for anybody who's got sensitive hands, I suffer from arthritis in the winter, that gilding cuts your fingers. That is not good gilding. That is gilding that looks good, but must be cheap quality because it's pretty painful. And that irks me as a reader that why is such a beautiful deck trapped in gilding like that? Plus, it's the Star Tarot. It could have been silver. I think silver with those backs just goes with it more. There's something about card production where they get to a really good point and then they fall. It's like at the last minute, they just do something which is ridiculous. And I feel like this deck suffers from that. So I don't love the cardstock. I think it's very good. It's a bit cardboardy, actually, to be quite honest with you. It's quite cardboardy. But I can survive even that. But then it's that gilding, which is not matching the backs and painful. My fingers have ended up with cuts trying to shuffle this. Yeah. So it kind of like sits on my shelf looking pretty. That's the truth of this deck. It looks nice, but it hurts my hands. And the guidebook is excellent. Is it worth having this deck? Definitely. The guidebook is very, very good. If you're a learner and if you're new and you want to have a great guidebook, I definitely recommend this deck. But, you know, cardstock boys. Okay, so we are playing with the sun today. Okay, so next question. Let's go quick. What deck gives you the willies? This was like so funny. It's a very new deck in my collection. I only got it 2 weeks ago. It's so funny. It doesn't give you the willies so much, but it's the Luminous Void Tarot. I now understand the quirkiness of this deck. This deck is the only deck in my whole collection that sits on its own. It's almost like nobody else wants to sit with it. That tells you a lot about this deck. Sorry. Let's see if that helps in catching. Yeah. I'm going to have to shift a little bit so that you will watch this without me shifting too much. Okay, that's okay. There you go. Luminous Void Tarot. Let's go for it. This deck is creepy. I mean, it is creepy. I mean, it's the teeth. I mean, she's just special. She's just... it's like the body gets all mixed up in this, and you just have limbs in places and blobs with a eye appearing. It's just strange. But I do like the deck. I like the deck, and I'm going to do a deck interview soon. Let's get to some, here you go, you can see the miners now. I mean, it's a great deck. So yeah, very happy to have this one coming into my collection, but she's an oddball. I'll give her that. She's got a life of her own, that's for sure. These are the backs of that deck, beautiful backs. Yeah, again, if you are considering getting this deck, it is worth the money for sure. It is worth the investment. I say investment, some people don't like that word, but I do, because sometimes these decks actually sell for the same price or more. You never know. So, but yeah, she's a special one. This deck. She sits on her own in a space of her own on the shelf. That tells you everything, doesn't it? It's like, okay, my dear. Okay, so next question. Let's put that over there. Next question is, oh, what happens when you do evening videos? That's not coming through. Okay, so the next question is what's your favorite deck for shadow work? Okay, so this is a good question. My favorite deck for shadow work, I don't do shadow work with decks, just to be very clear. Not really my thing. I don't think I'm having a really difficult time. Let me get a deck out. Like, I like oracle decks and stuff like that, but like the real shadow work I do, yeah, there's no tarot, there's no cards involved. It really becomes then focus and getting down to the bottom of things. If I did use a tarot deck, specifically a tarot deck for shadow, if I did, I really believe it's got to be the El Goliath. I think this is a beast of a deck. I find that it's not scary, it's just more so primal. It can really bring primal emotions to the forefront. It doesn't scare me. I actually believe I believe one should not use scary decks to do shadow work. That's a big part of my feeling about that, because we're actually getting to some very, very sensitive places and we don't need to scare ourselves. But this deck doesn't do that to me. This deck is just, there's something about it that's very primal. There's something about it that's very ethereal, that crosses, I don't know what it just takes me so much into a space where animals have their way of communicating, their way of showing life. And so if I did do some scary work, I would definitely, consider working with the El Goliath. Gorgeous deck. So yeah, and very glad to have this. This was also an expensive splurge because I had to buy this from the creator directly. It was a little bit pricey, but yeah, glad I have this one. Okay, let me see if I can put all that back. Yeah, when you're doing 21 decks, like, it gets messy over here, definitely. Okay. Next question. Oh, sorry, opening up my iPad. What deck do you love in theory but not in practice? There's quite a few that I feel like they work theoretically, but they don't really work in practice. Let me show you this deck, because I've got some feelings about this deck. This is the Touchstones Tarot by Cat Black, and I know there's also a sister deck as well. Theoretically, it looks very interesting and cool, but I don't like the fact that who was used for these paintings was not included in the guidebook. I don't believe that that's good manners historically, to be honest with you, for historical accuracy. But also, I believe that when reading with these people, it just, I don't know, there's something about it that just feels very, it feels fun, but it doesn't feel like, I could get a serious reading out of this, or I would be too busy trying to figure out who that person is sometimes. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't. And I'm still going, who is that person again? And then, you know, and yeah, I think that's what annoys me about this deck. But I've kept it because I think that it might work as a accent piece on other decks in a reading, for example, with the Tildwick. And yeah, and the backs look absolutely stunning. I mean, look at those backs. There you go. Okay, the next question is what deck would you never use to read for someone else? There are several that I'm very, very picky about, and I'm just about, you know, I keep them for myself. But the one that I just know that, no, I'm not going to read this, I'm not going to read for someone else with this, is of course my beloved, and of course I love it. It's Murder of Crows by Corrado Roy, guidebook by Charles Harrington. I love this deck. It was easily part of the you cannot remove this from my dead hands pile, but I decided to put it into this question so I could show it. This deck is very special to me. Very, very special. And I do like Charles Harrington's writing as well. This deck is very much, it has a place that she wants to read for me for, and she wants to show me things. And I feel like there's a very much a click with this deck that I just cannot take to another person. I also find that the demeanor of this deck and how it comes across be for others, and I want to be careful that that's not how I read. When I read for others, I don't sit there and set out to scare someone or to make them feel uncomfortable. That's not my prerogative or my approach to clients or anyone, you know, that I'm reading for. Basically is how can I best guide and navigate somebody through a situation or through some answers that they want or whatever they're seeking, rather than scaring them. And that's why this deck, I think, is very special, because I don't think it's really for a lot of people. And also I have a very special connection with her. She's like a high priestess to me. This deck is very much a high priestess. It wants to journey with me into certain spaces. And sorry, there's lots of hair I'm trying to pull off here. And I just don't believe that that would work then all of a sudden reading with somebody else. It would be just a bit strange, like who is she actually? You know what it is? Sometimes with decks, maybe some of you have it, where you're reading for someone else and then all of a sudden it feels like the deck is actually telling you something. And that means the energy hasn't been cleared on the deck, which is definitely the tarot reader's responsibility, I believe. Definitely, you know, mea culpa, that's my responsibility. But the other aspect of it is sometimes some decks want to read for certain people and then you can't shift them out. They just like, no, I'm here for you. So that's what this deck feels for me. Love it, love it, love it. And of course, it really prompted me to know that I would love the Joker too. So there you go. Which I've backed, of course, you know, that's the Kickstarter I've backed. What deck would you never use for yourself? That was an easy one because it's so much fun. And that is the Pulp Tarot by Todd Alcott. This is the mass market version. I wouldn't use this for myself because this is a party deck. This deck wants to mix with people. It's such an easy reader. This deck is just fun. It's joyful. It's a party in a deck. It's 1950s. It's like that art, you know, that goes back, and it's just, it's a great deck to use with others, I believe. I think she's like a deck that wants to like socialize and mix and show off her, you know, her she brings back memories, I guess, for a lot of people, and she wants to be used like that. I believe that with this deck. I think that she's a deck that's just, you know, she's like, don't leave me on my own. I want to have fun. And yeah, I get that. I get that feeling with this deck. So there you go. I think the Zombie Tarot, the Housewives Tarots, they're all decks that just, they want to have fun. That's how I feel. Okay, what deck could you not bring yourself to buy? I don't have anything that I can show, or I'm not going to put anything on screen. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to name and shame, but there are creators in my last few years of collecting, which I've noticed are, I believe that they take advantage of the prestige they've won or people liking and promoting their decks, and then they have been very rude to everyday consumers. Comments I've seen in forums about certain creators, their behaviors towards consumers, and I'm struggling whether or not I want to buy a deck from that artist again, because their art is phenomenal, or they've done very well. I know it's a collector deck. I know it's going to be worth a lot of money. I love collecting. I don't mind investing, you know, and it goes up. I like that. That's part of my whole collecting love. But when I see a creator behaving in a really inappropriate manner or crossing consumer ethical boundaries, you know, I live in a space where consumer rights are discussed. We have a whole regulator behind that. Many countries have that, but when I see artists behaving in ways where they really go to the edge of flouting consumer law in order to flex their muscle, that I've got a great deck and you are subject to me as a creator, I just think, yeah, I don't want to invest in your decks, and I don't want to show them on my channel. And I've seen a couple of creators behave like that. So there you go. What's your favorite pip deck? I think I've shown already the Alchemical Masse by Robert M. Plass, but another one that just blew me away this year, and I'm going to show them both actually. One from last year, which is the Trionfi della Luna. I think it's a great little pip deck. I don't think it reads for me very well, to be quite honest with you. I haven't really gelled with this deck. It can go into that category, I'm afraid. But I think she's a great pip deck. I actually get on well better with the fully illustrated Trionfi della Luna. But I do think it's a fantastic pip deck, done very, very well by Patrick Valenza. And yeah, and I wanted to show it on this channel because I think it's very unique in the Masse world, for sure. So there you go. And the other pip deck that I have to give a shout out to, because again, the creator did a fantastic job with it, and it's sad it doesn't have more coverage as a Masse, but I think it deserves it. It's a tattoo deck, and it is Tarot Noirs by Needman, who is, I believe, a Russian creator. I'm sorry about the sun, it's come back out again. This deck, US Games, mass market deck, you know, if you want a tattoo or pip Masse style deck, yeah, I'm recommending this. I think you'd love it. I think it's such a quirky deck. I think it's done so, so well. I love the art in it. I love the pippish nature of it. There you go. Some of the, you know, they are actually very well illustrated, the pips. And yeah, I'm trying to find more pips now. There you go. 3 of Chalices, 9 of Wands. You can see it there now. So yeah, I think he's done a fabulous job with this deck, and it needs more coverage. I think that's about it. And these are the backs. So there you go. Give this deck a try if you're looking for a new Masse. That's what I'm going to say to you. Next question. Are we near the end? We're probably near the end now as well. My iPad keeps shutting off. Okay. Yeah, we're near the end. What deck slaps you with the truth? I've already shown you Murder of Crows. This deck for sure slaps me with the truth. But another one that now I have to bring her in and show her as her own self, because she does need that, is of course my beloved Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Julia Jeffrey is the artist. Barbara Moore is the guidebook writer. This deck will not let me get away with something. And this deck knows when it wants to speak the truth and wants to be heard. This is a deck that connects with me as the reader. It's almost like she says, you are to read me so that we can, you know, make the messages happen. We can get out there, whatever needs to be said or discussed. It's a fabulous deck, and she does not shy away from revealing, you know, certain things or taking me into a space to show me something that I might be uncomfortable with. It is an emotional deck, very emotive. We're looking only at faces, so it's been done extremely well. There you go. Okay, and finally, what's the deck that got away? And I think that there's quite a few. Sometimes I see so many decks, I'm thinking, oh, I wish I'd managed to know about this, you know, when it was produced and etc. But the one that really got away, because now I've got the Tildwick, and I used to have that on my list, was, you know, it's the Murder of Crows, the Kickstarter version. And I've actually written to Low Scarabaeo to see if I could get it. They said, no, it's gone, it's gone. It now retails on Etsy, the Kickstarter version, for close to 500 euros or 500 US dollars, something like this. I mean, I'm not going to pay that kind of money, but I feel a little bit sad that I didn't get it. It has red accents, and yeah, I mean, yeah, and yeah, there's something about that deck that I wish I'd had the Kickstarter edition, but there we go, c'est la vie. Okay, so I will be ending it here. I think we're already at 40 minutes, so it's time to stop. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you all soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.